During your May 25 visit to the White House, you acknowledged that South Africa's crime exceeds the government's control, an admission made in the presence of the US president and the glare of world media, exposing weakness on the global stage. You and your delegation basically said, no, we don't only kill farmers in South Africa, we kill everyone.
Now, this in the light of the Makhonazi revelations. True, but the threats flying that should the Lieutenant General be suspended after his media briefing, riots similar to those of 2021 will follow are concerning indeed.
During the last quarter, 5,727 people were murdered. And then, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable President, Malcolm X said, I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it. So I'm going to tell the truth today. You invoked Mandela Day, whose theme is, it's still in our hands to combat poverty and inequality. My president wrote an opinion piece today entitled, Finding Mandela's Footsteps. Now let me look at some of your footsteps. You started this term with an increase in your cabinet from 66 to 75, and then on Sunday evening increased it more by adding a minister at large, which costs taxpayers an additional 250 million rand a year. This does not combat poverty and inequality, it compounds it, especially considering how profligate your new ministers are in pursuit of Voyager miles and luxury accommodation. You appointed the then Honourable Simelane, facing criminal charges for a dodgy loan linked to the VBS Mutual Bank scandal. As the Minister of Justice, you feigned no knowledge of this and prevaricated for months about this dilemma after you were informed, and then you shuffled her from justice to human settlements, a political maneuver to shield her from scrutiny rather than uphold accountability. This reinforces the ethos of impunity in your cabinet and your caucus. Members of your executive routinely undermine parliamentary oversight, either by failing to answer questions altogether or by submitting replies that evade substantive issues raised. The same applies to ministerial correspondence. In fact, this haughty arrogance has quickly infected your new ministers in the GNU. In fact, now they don't even respond to emails or personal WhatsApps. Not only is crime out of control in South Africa, our safety and security arms are in complete disarray, especially after the Makhonazi expose. During your May 25 visit to the White House, you acknowledged that South Africa's crime exceeds the government's control, an admission made in the presence of the US president and the glare of world media, exposing weakness on the global stage. You and your delegation basically said, no, we don't only kill farmers in South Africa, we kill everyone. Action SA remains gravely concerned that while discredited narratives like white genocide continue to dominate some public discourse, the real war being waged against South Africa is the unrelenting war against all who live in our country. Yesterday, we debated a report on rural crime, including farm murders, and the increasingly brutal and violent crime in rural villages, who are all the more vulnerable due to an inept, ill-equipped police force and broken rural infrastructure. These communities are, for all intents and purposes, on their own. We have the highest murder rate in the world, and the murders in our communities beggar belief, such as the murder and rape of a 100-year-old woman. 100-year-old woman.
That we can buy.
And the murder.
Honorable Trollip, just switch off the microphone of that member, please, because obviously the member is not even following the discussion. They're busy buying things. Continue, Honorable Trollip.
And then consider the brutal murder and dismembering of 14-year-old Lito Forse of Gauteng by a parolee. During the last quarter, 5,727 people were murdered. And then worse, almost, if it can be, more than 3 times that number are women and children that have been sexually violated. These victims might still have their life, but their lives are destroyed, and some wish themselves dead. Under the GNU, South Africa's economy has been unable to grow at more than 1%, lagging way behind our emerging market peers that are growing at 4%. You and your government have coined the phrase job opportunities, and you were breastbeating here this afternoon that people are flocking to our country to see how we've achieved this. Yet we have the highest unemployment and highest youth unemployment in the world. This is not the truth. The lack of growth and absence of any economic policy intervention and legislation has had a catastrophic impact on ordinary South Africans. The expanded unemployment rate has increased from 42.6% to 43.1%. So much for the GNU promises made a year ago. Despite your claims about tourism growth and logistics interventions, we continue to see key manufacturing sectors shedding jobs and closing down, increasing the ranks of the unemployed. The new 30% tariff imposition by the USA will compound this because neither you, your White House delegation, and your rejected US envoy have been able to convince President Trump that ours is not a corrupt, inappropriately aligned nation of racial discrimination. No, Mr. President, you are not following in the footsteps of President Mandela. You and your government are not combating poverty and inequality. You're increasing it. As for your budget, we cannot support it against such woeful performance. Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honourable Thring.
House Chairperson. South Africa's security apparatus should form the cornerstone of our nation's peace and stability. That's according to global best practice. As the saying goes, we cannot control the waves, but we can learn to surf. Hearing the Minister and the Presidency admit that there was indeed the possibility of a coup d'etat here in our country, having said a scant hour earlier in a debate that other nations watching Sunday's media briefing were thinking that such an event was already underway. Well, that had me admiring the honesty with which she spoke. By finally releasing the promised reports on the national security lie of the land, so to speak, was brave to put it mildly. Indeed, an honest reflection of where we are right now reveals an intelligence ship tainted by allegations of collapse, state capture, and corruption, reaching the highest levels of our nation's intelligence community. We entrust these agencies to be the guardians of our democracy, the silent sentinels ensuring our safety. Yet in recent years, that credibility has been white-anted by scandal, mismanagement, and political interference. Unlike those in this House who have never gone through the rigors of top-secret security vetting, what those of us hear and see on the JSCI is at times breathtakingly alarming. Suggestions, however, that what we do is sign off on the erosion of personal freedoms is wrong on every level. And I speak as someone who's been a member for 6 years and not just begun to attend. The Minister yesterday also highlighted the need to decontaminate the criminal justice system of criminality. Now, this in the light of the Makonazi revelations. True, but the threats flying that should the Lieutenant General be suspended after his media briefing, riots similar to those of 2021 will follow, are concerning indeed. And in a country plagued by unemployment, poverty, inequality, and poor service delivery, we find ourselves in a very volatile situation. Nobody who was there will forget as citizens blockading our streets and standing guard in the total absence of the SAPs, or that during those riots, some 350 died and 50 billion rands worth of damage was caused. And where were our intelligence services then exactly? I fear that claims that such riots will never be allowed to happen again, ring rather hollow. I doubt there is anyone in the country who disagrees that the very pillars of the Republic's security, comprising the State Security Agency, Defense Intelligence, and Crime Intelligence, require both a systemic clean-out and resource capacitation. The reality is that peace is but a conduit for development. Hence, to ensure a stable security landscape, our intelligence community must be capacitated with capable, competent, and well-resourced staff. The inevitable outcome of the lack of capacitation sees us viewed as an epicenter for illicit terror funding, with the knock-on effect that has seen our nation's credibility and security shaken to the core. According to the Organized Crime Index of 2023, South Africa has lost state control to mafia networks, gangs, and corrupt officials. One of the main causes of our being grey-listed was our vulnerability to illicit terror funding. Having a safe and secure state is so much more than about preventing harm. It's equally about displaying to the global community that foreign direct investment will be used for economic development and not nefariousness. The very essence of the Weberian state and the decline in the Republic's ability to wield control over the use of force is the driver behind the increase in criminality that sees our citizens live in constant fear for our lives. Such a reality is nothing more nor less than an existential threat to our nation's very survival. In essence, Weber's definition highlights the state's unique ability to maintain order and enforce its will within the borders through the controlled use of force. The next logical question that must be asked is, does our country have the ability to maintain order? Well, 14 months ago, Professor Kochalia, in his capacity as part of the National Corruption Advisory Council, handed President Ramaphosa a comprehensive report, which claims to have detailed what plagues crime intelligence. Yet, to date, the President has yet to make the report public. It is in the interests of the country that we know the contents of the report and call on Professor Kochalia in his capacity as the incoming acting police minister to act on the findings of the report to once and for all clean the rot out of crime intelligence, the very same rot that saw the arrest of the entire top structure of crime intelligence just over 3 weeks ago. We cannot continue to allow crucial reports to gather dust. When Mr. Ramaphosa first became the president, his task was to implement the recommendations of the Zondo Commission into state capture. 3 full years and 1 billion rand later, there's no accountability in the face of sometimes horrific testimonies. 0 arrests. And Mr. President, for your very credibility as the chief executive, this has to change. Reports and commissions must have teeth if we truly mean business. Otherwise, they're just useless piles of paper used to cover over the cracks. What must also change, Mr. President, in addition to your inaction, is your prevarication. Now, your minister in the presidency, who is the political head of the State Security Agency, is reportedly awaiting a decision by the National Prosecuting Authority following the disappearance of 80 million rand during her time as a municipal manager. Now, should a person with such clouds circling above her head have a place around the cabinet table, let alone overseeing the SSA? It's as if the state capture never happened, when in fact our security and intelligence apparatus was grossly manipulated. The very man who was the minister who broke the State Security Agency serves today as a deputy minister. Honorable David Mhlongo is still a member of cabinet, enjoying the benefits of the state he tried and came very close in succeeding to destroy. Look back at the Zondo Commission hearings and do a search for, quote, carrying off suitcases stuffed with cash. Just because we believe the SSA is not captured today, that does not mean it will never be so again. South Africa is a nation that learns lessons from its past, but it seems the presidency has yet to learn the lessons from the 3 years of state capture hearings. As the Democratic Alliance, we have long called for the depoliticization of our intelligence services, coupled with that of a skills rebuild and enhanced coordination between the security services. These are all vital mechanisms which must occur so that public trust can once again be restored in our government's ability to protect our citizens from threats, both foreign and domestic. This is why we hammered on for so many years about pushing the General Intelligence Laws Amendment Bill through the system to clear out what those dreadful Zuma years had done to our intelligence services. When our intelligence services are strong, our economy is safer, our streets are more secure, and our future brighter. But when they are weakened by corruption and incompetence, we all suffer. Let us demand a professional, ethical, and effective intelligence community. We have been through so much. We have earned this right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, the Honourable Morolong.
House Chairperson, President of the people of South Africa, President Madamela Cyril Ramaphosa, members of the National Executive, honorable members of Parliament, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. We gather here today in this August House, just over a week after the passing of Ms. Teresa Solomon, yet another towering activist for equality, peace, and justice. We, the descendants of such a courageous soldier for peace, will forever remain indebted to Comrade T and her generation, who are born of the matriarchs of our struggle, women